Hello and welcome to FiST Chat, the vodcast on film, science and technology. My name is Ben Warner and I'm joined by my co-host Stephen Kern. How you doing, Steve?
Hi Ron, how are you?
Today we're going to be talking about Rupert Murdoch's internet paywall and its implications for the internet and what it all means and I guess what all the fuss is about. Now our vodcast is available for download in MP3 audio format for your portable device at www.fistchat.com. You can subscribe there for updates as well. We've got links to our Facebook and Twitter pages, and there's also a YouTube link. You click that and you can actually watch this vodcast online. So yeah, I guess moving on to Mr. News Corp's desire to get some more cash out of the internet. I guess he's fairly strongly stated that advertising on the internet in itself is not a strong enough revenue stream, especially compared to traditional revenue. And as far as he was concerned, to keep the online content going and so it's sustainable for him and I guess all of his outlets and all of that, he has come up with a sort of subscription-based model where the user either pays per view or they pay per time period, that sort of thing. And the idea is, well, like in the case of newspaper, because that's one of his biggest outlets there. You paid for it on paper, so why can't you pay for it online? That's the eyes there. So the proposal, I guess, has a lot of wide-reaching implications for all online content, not just articles and newspaper articles. It also applies to video, TV shows, films, everything that you can think of. And many eyes are watching Murdoch's little play here to see how it works. So, I guess, Steve, what are your initial impressions on that?
Well, I don't know. Do I have to disclose that I used to work for News Corp many years ago? Look, I think the implications are for, more for journalism than general IP. I mean, if you're on the internet, you've got things like Creative Commons licenses and a whole host of things where you can share or you can write e-zine articles that can be shared. I don't think that this affects that. I actually personally, I guess, having worked in media and news media environments, I actually think the paywall is a good idea. And I think people have been very lucky to get the quality of media online that they have for free for so long. But, everything is paid for. When you watch free-to-air television, the advertising, those breaks are paying for your news, so you're not getting it for free. There are whole team people that put together stories, write reports, make news reports, so you can view them and enjoy them, and actually get professionally produced content. So that doesn't happen for free. Nothing happens for free in this day and age. I don't know any of these people that are who are against the paywall, who say it should be free. I don't ever hear them saying that they ever do anything for free. So I mean, if you want to just approach it purely from an economic exchange point of view, if people value good journalism and if people value, quality news as opposed to amateur photography of whatever's going on and somebody just talking breathlessly into a camera, the paywall is essential for us to maintain the integrity of our news structures, which we all have had now for decades.
It's interesting because I guess one of the things is that there's so much free online content. There's a whole universe of it out there. And one of the arguments that could be made against the paywall is that if you can get it somewhere else for free, and given the breadth of the internet, you're most likely to find it somewhere else for free, that might actually turn off people from going to your site. Now, obviously, he's got the name recognition and all that sort of thing, behind him. But the fact of the matter is that if people don't have to pay for it, they won't. I think they did some study somewhere that I think it was something like 3% of any users that are accessing like a site like one of Murdoch's, say the Wall Street Journal or one of those, 3% would be willing to pay via the paywall. The question, of course, then became how much free content did they offer to to appease the people that weren't going to pay for it, and how do they do it in such a way so that there's not so much free content that they don't annoy the people that are actually paying for the subscription. So it's a bit of a fine balance there.
Yeah, look, I agree, and I think it's something, I'll talk about in a minute what I think has actually changed the paywall situation probably in a paywall favour. But, I mean, honestly, these people that they survey, do they not buy newspapers now? Or do they steal them? Do they go over the neighbours and steal the neighbour's newspaper?
Yeah, I mean, it's a fascinating kind of mentality, really, isn't it? And I guess it's a symptom of this new world that we're in that I guess it's sort of fostered in the this first decade of the internet that we've had all this free content and people have just become used to the idea that they could just hop online and get anything for free.
Yes.
And there isn't really like an education process there to teach people that this is another format and content cannot be produced for nothing. And it's got to be paid for somehow.
Well, that's absolutely right. But people do think news is free. There's that perception, probably mainly because of free-to-air television. And I think that's probably where if you come forward and say, well, we're going to have a paywall now and try and shut you out of news. Well, obviously people are going to say, well, I'm going to go wherever it's free. Interestingly, though, I think the big game changer has been, since Murdoch announced the paywall, is actually the iPad. Now, he's had applications for his newspapers, and there seems to be a really good uptake of the subscriptions to view these papers on the iPad. So that is the paywall. It just doesn't look like what we thought. Maybe we expected a page like Google or something with paywall written there, and that we were going to have to press a button with our credit card details.
Well, it's interesting that, I mean, the iPad's an excellent example because that's obviously a consumption device and it's been designed specifically for this sort of thing. But Apple is quite ingenious in this way because they managed to get their, their supporters, people who are into their technology that buy their products, they always manage to get them to pay for the content that they supply. And the iTunes,
damn straight.
I mean, the iTunes store is an excellent example of that. And people, it's almost like it's cool to buy off of it, kind of thing.
Well, here's a really good example for you. Before the iTunes store, right, we had Napster, and we had people just stealing songs left, right, and centre because it was free music, just like maybe the news is free. Yet, once they built an iTunes store, people were quite happy to start paying.
Yeah, I know, it's amazing, isn't it?
So, I think everyone always takes, something like the idea of a paywall with great trepidation, and of course, everyone naturally wants something for free, and there's nothing wrong with that. I mean, everyone always wants the best deal they can get for themselves, and that's fine. But, the reality is that there are many ways you can implement a paywall, and mobile devices, certainly, as you're saying there, is how it's happened.
Yeah, exactly.
It's quite amazing.
Maybe if we can move on to, like video content. I have, as I'll tell all you listeners out there or watchers now, that obviously I have a very extensive online presence, and part of that, as a filmmaker, I've put a lot of my films and, docos and things like that on the internet for broadcast, and at the moment I've got various other ways of trying to recoup the revenue that I spent for the costs that I spent on making those films, and I'm using at the moment an advertising model, which the idea is that a video ad will play before the video itself will play, and each time that ad comes up, it becomes like a hit, and then based on the amount of hits of the ads you get, then you get paid a certain amount of money. money. Now that's another model. That's probably the first model before the paywall that came up for recouping revenue for content on the internet. But the interesting thing there is that there's a real potential with that form of, I guess, money generation, if you, so to speak, that you can turn off your audience by having either too much advertising or ill-placed advertising.
Yeah, well, I'd like to know, actually, I guess, from our listeners here, and, you know, how do they feel on a topic like this? I mean, are we charging for this, by the way, Ben?
At the moment, it's totally free, unless we sell out, of course, and we have to put sponsor messages on the front.
Well, what would our audience prefer to see if they had to pay to watch us talk? I mean, would they prefer a 30-second ad at the head, or would they prefer to pay 50 cents?
Yeah. I think it's just a mental thing. The idea is that this is where the cons of it come in. If you've got an ad that plays every single time a different video comes up, you're going to go, oh, maybe I can't be bothered sitting through this again and again and again just to watch this content. On the flip side, if you've got a paywall in effect and you have to pay for the content, the user really has to love the content to want to shell out the cash for it, even if it's only like 50 cents or 99 cents or something like that. It's all a psychological thing.
So tell me then, as somebody who produces content and somebody who runs his own websites, what model would you prefer, and what do you think will ultimately succeed?
I actually think it's got to be a mixture of both, actually, and there's got to be a fine line between the two as to how you implement both of them. Because there'll be if you manage to, obviously the onus is on me to produce content that people are going to want to look at. So that's a difficulty all on its own. But assuming that can fall into place, then the idea is that if you've got a dedicated audience, then hopefully they'll go through a subscription-based thing where they'll pay for more content that you've got. But I still think you have to provide some free content for people that are just going to show up and maybe they couldn't care less about what you're doing, but they're interested in checking you out. And you have to provide that content for them. And I guess in that respect, if you've got some minimal advertising there, then maybe that'll work. But you know, I really don't know. I mean, I've been working at this website thing for a good 3 or 4 years now, and you know, it's still all experimental to me.
Well, what would you then say? I mean, the sort of model you just proposed then sounds very much the way that porn is now sold and marketed on the internet these days. And in all seriousness, though, we have seen probably over the last 10 or 15 years that industry lead the internet in terms of, you know, how to make sales, how to merchandise, and how to run an online business. Do you think that, you know, those sorts of models, because they are the most consumer driven, do you think ultimately that's where we need to look to see where things are going in terms of sales, not in terms of content?
Yeah, I know. Don't try that at home, boys and girls. I think so. I think there may also be some innovations that we haven't seen yet as well, because it is still a medium that I think people are still coming to terms with. I guess we'll finish up there. Thanks again for the chat, Steve.
Anytime. I'd like to say hello to everyone and do write in and let us know what you think or don't think.
You can catch us at www.fistchat.com. All of our social media links, Facebook, Twitter. You can catch videos on YouTube, and you can subscribe to our audio feeds off of that website. So next time we're going to be talking about human lifespans. We're going to get into some science. So looking forward to that. But until then, we'll see you next time.